Jolly good show, Major.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
What's going on, TTC? New Rob Report. Week 6, and we finally got another big game coming up. We opened up the season with a big game against the Green Bay Packers, and we handled that one just fine. And then we ended up playing a game that ended up being a big game against the San Diego Chargers. I didn't see that one as a big game beforehand, but turns out, in hindsight, ended up being a pretty big game. Number one, because they beat us. Number two, because Chargers looking pretty, at this point anyway, looking okay. So after the Denver game, which I guess you can call that a big game, there was a lot was made of that game than really there was. But either way, it turned out to be a good big game. Then we took care of the Washington Redskins after the bye week. Either way, whatever. Here we are against Dallas. It's tough to call this game. I'm expecting these Cowboy fans to come on out. Or maybe not. I typically would want to go ahead and write Dallas off right off the bat. Just write them off. But Dallas is 4-1. I go so far as to say that, Dallas, they lost to the 49ers in week 1. And outside of the New Orleans Saints, they haven't really beat anybody. They beat the Texans, Rams, and Titans. But Dallas is 4-1. It took them overtime to beat Houston, and Houston is not a good team. But Dallas is 4-1. Tough to call this. You got Tony Romo, who he is good for an inopportune pick. It's almost like clockwork. It's gonna happen. However, I figured we would have forced Kirk Cousins into throwing a pick or two in that game on Monday. That didn't happen. So I don't know if these teams are figuring out ways to attack us, or are we just not playing up to par as far as what we know of Seattle's defense's ability. We just we haven't been turning the ball over as much as I would expect to see us turn the ball over, or forcing turnovers, I should say. DeMarco Murray's running his tail off this season. I don't expect Seattle to roll over and let him run over him, but DeMarco Murray has been having success running the football, and Dallas is 4-1. Des Bryant continues to make big plays down the field. Much ado was made about Deshaun Jackson getting deep on our secondary on that touchdown play on Richard Sherman. The play wasn't even on Richard Sherman. They played a man look that fell into zone. A good route was run. Richard Sherman took the inside receiver, and Deshaun Jackson kind of wheel routed it out to the outside. Chancellor came and took his zone, kind of like a hook zone, a little, or I guess kind of a flat zone. I'm not sure what it was, but he took his zone a little shallow, and it was just too late. Once he flattened out to take his zone, there was no way he was going to catch up to Deshaun Jackson. And Sherman. Matter of fact, Sherman. What no one wants to talk about is that Sherman actually made a great play to even be there to attempt to make the tackle on Deshaun Jackson, because Sherman had already sold out on the inside receiver. He made an adjustment and took off on that football while it was in the air to be able to even have a chance at getting at Deshaun Jackson before he missed the tackle and he went in for the score. But Sherman had to flip himself back around to be able to go try and make that tackle, and he still almost made the tackle. The play wasn't on Sherman, so Folks, get over it. Don't come in here, Cowboy fans, talking about how Deshaun Jackson beat Sherman. No. So I expect the ball to go deep to Des Bryant. I go so far as to say early and often. That is the Cowboys' bread and butter, throwing that ball to Des down the field. So I don't see Dallas staying away from that, because if they stay away from that, they don't got much else. They're gonna have to throw that ball, and hopefully Seattle's gonna be ready for it. On offense, all Seattle has to do, the only thing coming off of Monday's game, it's a short week. If I'm Pete Carroll, the only thing that I'm harping on going into this game against Dallas is the pre-snap penalties. Other than that, Seattle's offense was near perfection. The fact that we were able to overcome the penalties that we got on ourselves, the countless penalties that we just inflicted on ourselves in that game on Monday, the fact that we were able to overcome that and still come out with a almost dominating victory. I mean, if it wasn't for the penalties, the game would have been a massacre. It would have been a massacre in Washington. But we kept shooting ourselves in the foot. Otherwise, there would have been 50 points on the board on Monday night. If we can keep from taking one step forward and 2 steps back with these pre-snap penalties, the refs are really doing. They're going as deep and as hard as they can. They're going ham on defending these crazy ass calls they're calling this year. I watched the thing with the I can't remember the guy's name, but he's with the vice president or something of official affairs or something. I forgot his name. I watched it on ESPN, defending the call against Carpenter when he hit the guy on the ground. I mean, the ref who threw the flag was behind Carpenter when Carpenter jumped on the guy. And he threw the flag because technically there was contact to the head and neck area of the player who was on the ground. And a player on the ground apparently gets defenseless player rules. Any player on the ground gets defenseless player rules. So it's expected, it's not illegal for you to hit a player on the ground, but it's expected for you to not in any way contact their head or neck area, which when they're on the ground, the first and mostly only thing that's going to come off the ground first is their head and neck area. So I guess you're supposed to slip and slide. You're supposed to slip and slide into the guy, or just run up to him and just touch him down. But you can't hit him, because if you hit him, you're going to touch his head, and they're going to throw a flag for unsportsmanlike or unnecessary roughness. A bullshit explanation for a bullshit call. The ref who threw the flag shouldn't have been the one throwing the flag, because he wasn't in a position to actually see if he made legitimate contact to the player's head, which he didn't. Not legitimate contact. That was crazy. That was a crazy play. It was one of the plays that went against us. Now, Carp did have a blatant holding call. I think that was the one. That might have been the one on the touchdown pass. I think that was the one on the. I'm not sure because there was 3, but yeah, the holding calls they were legit. Even Okung had a holding call. Now I was okay with Okung's. I think it might have been his first or second holding call on Russell Okung. The one I'm talking about that I didn't have a problem with was because the dude, I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Arakpo or somebody was coming around that edge on him, and I think they swim inside of him. Maybe they swung. I don't know if they went inside or outside on Okung, but they got through. They got by him, and Okung said "fuck it" and just grabbed him because he was coming up on Russell Wilson's blind side, and who knows what would have happened. So he did a good job to hold. I had no problem with that because he was protecting Russell. He knew when the play was over, he was tapping himself on the chest like my bad. He knew that the guy had got by him, so he did the only thing he could do to protect Russell Wilson, which was hold the guy's jersey. So I wasn't mad at that at all. But the false starts, the holdings where you just holding's gonna happen. I hope it happens on really every play, but Seattle got to clean it up. And they call a false start on Percy Harvin. That might have been the touchdown pass. They call a a false start on the receiver who was going in motion. And they, what I don't get is when they have a questionable call and they meet up and they have their little meeting in the middle of the field about whether it was or whether it wasn't. You would think that more flags would be picked up. No, I'm under the assumption that officiating crews are penalized for picking up flags. Because it's all about time and things like that, the league and the networks and the commercials and all that shit. It's all about time, right? So I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm gonna go ahead and assume that official crews, refereeing crews, get they get penalized. They it goes into how good or how bad they called a game based on how many flags they have to pick up. How often does a flag get picked up? Not very often. You might get one, maybe two a game. Not even that much. If they throw the flag, they're gonna call something because otherwise they're wasting time, right? If they throw a flag, they're gonna call something. I wouldn't be surprised if they make that shit up half the time, because they threw the flag. They have to err to the side of caution and all this stuff because otherwise the league has no bearing. The league has no platform to stand on in court when these guys go back to sue them about taking hits to the head. That's why they always throw that flag. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it was a perfectly good hit, shoulder to the chest, perfect timing, perfect textbook hit. If you hit that receiver while he's catching the ball, they're going to throw a flag. If there's any type of neck snappage, they're going to throw a flag. And it doesn't matter. You almost just can't contest the ball like that. You can't contest the play in that physical manner anymore because if they see the neck snap, they're going to throw a flag. Even though 15 seconds later they run it back and see that there was absolutely no contact to the head. But they err to the side of caution because they can go back now when they get sued by these players and they say, well, hey, you guys, didn't tell me that I was going to get hit in the head every time. We're like, well, yeah, we did. And we threw a flag every time you even might have come close to getting hit in the head. So you knew what's up. Anyway, not to go too deep into that. But the Cowboys coming into the clink. It should be a good game early. Matter of fact, let me retract that. I'm thinking it's going to be all Seahawks early. And I see Dallas having to attempt to make a late comeback. Seattle's offense has been on point early in the games here. At least it was on Monday. We went right down the field and scored. For the most part, we've been good on offense early in the game. It's later on, like end of the second, third quarter, we become a little stagnant, get stuck. I don't know if it's adjustments that are made by the other team. The whole third quarter was absolutely nothing in Washington. But we'll get that cleaned up. The penalties didn't help. At home, it's a whole other story. The clink will be rocking. The spread is what, 8 or 7.5 or 8 points. I see another 10-point victory or so. Probably not a blowout. I love to see a blowout. The most memorable play for Tony Romo is his most infamous play, I would assume, which is the fumble snap on the field goal, the fumble field goal snap. I'm gonna matter of fact, I'm gonna play that video for you. Now I'm going to play it again, but I want you to listen. This is why I love Seahawks football, because listen to the crowd. The crowd is like any other crowd, right? But it's different. Listen to how the crowd is screaming their heads off before the play. The stadium almost goes completely silent until big play Jordan Babineau catches him from behind, and then it erupts again. I mean, you could almost hear a pin drop in the stadium. And when Jordan Babineau, big play Babs, caught him from behind, it was an eruption. I bet you the UW probably recorded seismic activity on that play too. They probably just didn't have nobody watching. That's a great Seahawk memory. I almost went into cardiac arrest on that play. I'm gonna go ahead and say Seahawks by double digits here. Um, uh, Decent game though, one you want to watch. Fuck the Cowboys, fuck the Star, fuck Dallas, fuck them. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Haven't seen any Dallas Hate Week videos yet, so I got nothing to go with. You know, I'm not like 24/7, man. He's good at just coming off the dome with stuff. I'm not good at that. I need something to fuel my fire. Where you at, Dallas? Fuck the Cowboys. Go Hawks.